Welcome to Going In Tight.
Freaking tight as yes.
Coming out loose.
Yeah, buddy. We did it, boys.
Welcome back, everybody, and thank you for joining on the 32nd episode of Going In Tight, Coming Out Loose. On this episode, we're going to recap the Daytona road course that happened this past Sunday and look ahead to Miami. But first, we're going to talk to Jesse Iwuji. So let's kick this off right now.
We're probably safe from your brothers coming in and getting after you with like a chair or something like that, right?
Yeah, that's not happening. Not today.
Yeah, those videos crack us up.
I had a little emergent situation I had to go drive to. I have a trucking company, and just trucking company comes with its fires.
I hear you. All good. Are you driving that sexy Corvette that you post all the time?
No, you wouldn't be able to hear me if I was. I'm driving my fiance's Jeep Grand Cherokee V6, quiet, simple, and efficient.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know, our first question to everybody is always, how'd you get your passion for racing? But we want to start a little bit different with you and kind of figure out, where you made your path to the Naval Academy, because that's kind of unique to most of the drivers in the series.
Yeah. So my path to the Naval Academy was through football. Growing up in Dallas, Texas, for those who know football at all, football in Texas is the biggest thing. It's God and football, and that's about it. And, growing up there, playing high school football, on the big stage out there, I had this big goal and dream to go off to college and play college football. So I worked really hard to get myself better at football. And because I wasn't good at first, I was fast, and that was about it. I couldn't catch to save my life, but I worked on that every single day. From 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, I would do like 100 extra push-ups every night. I would do 100 extra calf raises, 100 extra squats, 100 extra abs. I would get a football and lay in bed and toss it up and catch it with one hand. Each hand, I would do it like 50 times each hand, and it would strengthen my forearm muscles. That helped me gain better muscle memory for catching a football, which actually made me better at catching. And I did all this stuff to just get better and better and better. And finally, by my senior year, I was pretty decent. I was a good wide receiver. I was playing outside linebacker also, and things were going well. And eventually started getting recruited by the Naval Academy. And I looked at it as a great opportunity to go to good school, get a great education, and then when I graduate, be able to serve as an officer in the United States Navy. And also at the same time, too, the Navy was winning a lot of games.
Yep.
Really well. So, it was just a win in all different kind of ways. And that's what led me towards going to the Naval Academy.
So had you ever thought about being in the service before that point, before being recruited there? Was that kind of a dream of yours to be a part of one of the branches of service?
It wasn't really a dream of mine at that time. Basically what got me into even thinking about being in the military was just the Naval Academy. I never really thought about it prior. My full focus was at that time was football. But then when the Naval Academy started recruiting me, that's when my, ears, and eyes and thoughts started really going more towards this whole military service thing. And I was like, this could be interesting. I could be an officer in the Navy and a lot of great things that come with that. I was like, I think I could do this. And that's what led me towards going to the academy.
Cool. Yeah, that kind of hits close to home. I wasn't smart enough to get accepted to the Naval or Coast Guard Academy. I applied to both. I really wanted to fly helicopters is what I wanted to do. What was your specialty once you became an active duty officer?
For me, my specialty was surface warfare. So in the Navy, I was a surface warfare officer. Surface warfare officers are on the ships. We take the ships from point A to point B. We operate the ships. We do missions, operations, all that stuff. Fire missiles, take Marines from here to there, take Navy SEALs from here to there. We do a lot of stuff on the ships. But my first ship I was on was a minesweeper. I was on that ship for 2 years.
Wow.
And then my second ship was an amphib, where we carried about 400 Marines on board and another 400 Navy folks. That was real fun. Having 400 Marines on board They don't do a lot on the ship except, use all your weight rooms and eat all your food and poop a lot. That's pretty much it. But then when they get on ground, they go do some really cool stuff. So just on the ship, they don't do a lot.
So what, you're in the reserves now. What do you do? Do you do anything now?
Well, yeah. So in the reserves, I'm still a surface warfare officer, just not a ship-based surface warfare officer.
Mhm.
So now I'm doing more land-based stuff. I'm with at NBG-1, which is a naval beach group. What we do is we handle and manage and coordinate all ship-to-shore operations. So when Marines and equipment and stuff needs to go from a ship to the shore, we coordinate and handle and are kind of like the HQ for all of the different groups who are managing that whole process, so that we can get into a country that we're invading, get everything on land, set up camp on the shore, be able to go attack and execute missions from there.
Cool. Well, that's such an interesting background to switch gears and go into racing. What do you remember when you got a passion for racing, when you were introduced to it and was like, yeah?
Yeah, so in 2011, after I graduated the academy, about a year or so, I bought a Dodge Challenger, and I would take that to drag strips and drag race with it at different events. I had a lot of fun doing that. And then a few years later, 2013, I bought a Corvette Z06, which is the Corvette I have now, and same one. And I used to take it to road course tracks and do track days. So a combination between the drag racing stuff and the open track days on road courses, I really started gaining this passion towards cars and speed and tracks. So I put it all together and one day decided that I wanted to take it to the next level and I wanted to be a pro driver. I didn't know where I wanted to go or how I wanted to do it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to go like open wheel or stock cars or sports cars or whatever. I just knew I wanted to be a pro driver. But through kind of casting this vision out and continuing to put energy towards it every single day, eventually I had met a guy at a car show. His name is Kyle Wisner, and he introduced me to late model stock cars. And he talked to me about it, said, hey, you should try testing one out. And he was running for a team at that time. And I went and tested one out with his team. That went really, really well. And then from there, I was like, hey, this is the route I want to go. Like, let me try this NASCAR route. And from there, I had to figure out how to get the funding, how to make all that happen, because racing isn't free. It's not cheap. It costs money. No matter what level you're at, it just gets more and more expensive as you go on. So I had to figure out a way to, be able to fund this. So sponsorship wasn't really what I was going to get at that time because I was still new. So I started my own business on the side of being in the Navy, active duty. And that business made enough profit for me to put myself in a race car and start working my way up the ranks in NASCAR.
Wow, man, I cannot believe that. That's one way to do it. It's just to start your own business, sponsor yourself. Yeah. So you're in active duty for 7 years. And what was it like transitioning to a career in racing outside of being on dry land itself? Was there anything that you took from active service over to your racing career?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things I took from active duty to the Navy, to the NASCAR side. For me, learning how to manage my time, because racing is kind of a full-time thing. Even if you're not racing every race, it's still a full-time gig, trying to manage sponsorship stuff, find sponsorship, manage team relations, all that stuff, your social media, your brand, all that. It's a full-time gig. So that time management side has been huge. Being able to present myself in a professional manner. I've learned that all in the Navy, at the Naval Academy, and while being in the Navy. Public speaking, I do a lot of speaking engagements now. And the reason why I'm not like crazy nervous jumping into these engagements is because I learned how to speak publicly in the Navy, in front of our crew, in front of our ship. We're about to go on a special mission or operation, do a big exercise or a special evolution. And we have to do safety briefs, briefs on what's going to happen during that evolution. And, when we brief this stuff, it's in front of a lot of people. And every bit of information that you're putting out has to be accurate, it has to be correct, because people's lives are potentially in danger. And having to do that, that can be really nerve-wracking. So learning to do that at a young age and then just growing through that, I've now translated it over to the real world. So getting in front of 500, 600, 700 people and speaking to them is like nothing to me now, because it's, at least no one's life is on the line.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I assume that you've had plenty of ups and downs along the way trying to build your career in racing. What is it that has kept you so dedicated to it?
Yeah, what's kept me dedicated is because I set my goal to make it to the top, to make it to the Cup Series, race in the Cup Series, and eventually be competitive and one day win races, and then one day after that maybe win a championship. I set my sights on that and my goal. So since that is set and that's what I want to do and that's where I saw myself going, that's what's kept me motivated because you can't quit on it. Like the only way to truly fail at anything is quitting. No one can really stop you from achieving your dreams. People can definitely slow you down and make it difficult, but no one can stop you except yourself. So I'm not going to be the one. Like I'm going to make it to where I want to go. It takes time, it takes effort, it takes patience, it takes faith. We all are dealt a certain amount of cards, right? Like life is a card game. Reaching your goal, it's all a card game, and everyone's dealt a certain amount of cards. Some people are given very good set of cards to start with, and some people aren't. But just because you aren't given a good set doesn't mean you're not allowed to win the game. There's nothing in the rules that say if you're dealt these cards, you're not allowed to win. No, it's just saying if you're dealt these cards, it's just going to be a little bit tougher of a journey. You have to be a little bit smarter, a little bit more creative, and just a little bit better. And that's what I've had to do. I wasn't dealt the cards of, coming up in a racing family or coming up in a wealthy family or just having everything given to me. I wasn't dealt that. And that's okay for the other people who were dealt that. Like they didn't choose that. They were born into it. Okay, cool. For me, I wasn't, but that's not going to stop me. My journey is going to be a little bit tough. It's not going to be as easy. Maybe it's not going to happen as quick, but it'll happen as long as I just stay with it and stay strong enough long enough.
That's awesome. So you've raced in quite a bit of series and different cars. Is there a particular car or series, like Cup's the goal, but like you just love so much racing this type of car or this series?
Running K&N was real fun. And I'll look back at it. I had fun doing it while I was doing it, but even looking back at it now, it's so much less stress. I look back on it now, it was just fun running the short tracks. Real small. You can really throw the car around a lot because you're not really going that fast. 80, 90, 100 miles per hour on these little quarter mile and third mile ovals. And it's just fun, and you can really throw the car around a lot, have a lot of fun doing it. Racing's good. It was fun. So that was probably some of the most fun I've had. Now, Truck Series Xfinity has been cool too. It's just a lot more on the line, and you're going a lot faster, and it's harder to save the car if something bad happens. And the K&N, like if you lose it, like it's like pretty easy to like not put it in the wall, unless somebody dumps you.
Cool. Well, you talked a little bit about your Corvette and some of the other cars that you have. Have you always had a passion for sports cars since you bought that first car?
Yeah, I've had a passion towards sports cars since I was a little kid, since I was 5 years old. I used to watch the show Knight Rider. I used to watch the show Viper. I don't know if you remember that show from back in the day. Used to watch Speed Racer, used to watch anything that had cars going fast. And then when Fast and the Furious came out, my world changed. So yeah, I've always had when I say I love Fast and Furious, like actually over the last week, I've watched every movie except the first two. I got to watch the first two here. But I basically went on like I think I forget what it was. One of the streaming networks that you can buy all of them, Apple TV. I just bought the whole 9 yards, literally all 9 movies, and or 8 movies, whatever it is now. I can't remember. But anyways, I love Fast and Furious. I watch it all the time. It's just cars, street cars, racing. It's me. It's me.
Yeah. So what's your favorite car that you've got now?
It's hard to say. The Corvette Z06, the C6, is very fun because it's a drift car and it sounds like an animal. I can do a lot of cool things with it. The C7 Z06 is newer, but way comfy. It's like a luxurious version of the C6. So that's really nice. I love driving that thing. And that thing is going under the knife right now and will be way faster than it is right now here a little bit. Skyline is a eye catcher, an attention getter. That Skyline GTR is like probably the most popular car I have. I mean, that thing, I can't go anywhere without getting videotaped. It is crazy. It's actually pretty interesting. And yeah, because my girlfriend, like my fiance, she doesn't understand. She like sees it. She's like, it just looks like a simple little Nissan. Like what's so cool about this? It's like, it's Godzilla. You don't understand. Like, it's Skyline GTR. Like,
yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, switching gears just a little bit to kind of the state of what NASCAR is right now. It's obviously not news that you're one of the few African-American drivers who competes in NASCAR sanctioned series. The tides have turned, especially last year, and NASCAR has this laser focus on diversity inclusion. How do you think they're doing with it?
Definitely getting better. Diversity and inclusion has become a more popular topic over the last year or so. And then it needs to continue to be a topic and not just a fad. Sometimes you see some of these different things that come up, like, when a few years ago when the LGBT, I can't say it right, LGBT, whatever it is, all that stuff, when it was really becoming something that was coming up in the news, and all the Me Too movement stuff. It's crazy because all these companies go and start saying, yeah, we support that, yeah, we support this, we support that, but then all of a sudden when it's not cool anymore, you don't see people talking about it. Like transgender and gay people and all that stuff, that's been around for a long time. Why weren't these companies supporting it the year before? Why wasn't it talked about the year before? Why wasn't everyone changing their colors to all this stuff? So I hate when people just only make it a thing just because it's like the fad right then, but like support it. Like truly, if you're going to say you're going to support it, truly support it all the time. I think NASCAR has been supporting the diversity thing for a while, and it's been getting better and better. It's not perfect at all, but it is getting better, and they've been at least putting effort towards it for at least the last 15 or so years. So it's not something new. It's definitely not this new thing. It's been around. It's just slowly getting better and better now. So which is good. So progress is happening. I think it's there. More needs to happen, but I think NASCAR is working in the right direction.
Yeah, for sure. And so you kind of have this balance with all the social issues that we currently see. You are a minority in the sport, but you've also gone out and served our country and served one of the highest positions that you can, going into the military. So do you feel that there's a balance there, and what role do you feel like that you play in promoting diversity and inclusion through all these different competitive series?
Yeah, for me, promoting diversity and inclusion, when I promote it and push it, I'm always pushing for, when I say diversity and inclusion, I mean diversity for all. Like diversity and inclusion doesn't just only mean letting more Black people into NASCAR. It means creating a place where everyone has truly equal opportunity, and no one is being given certain advantages because of their color or skin or whatever. So everyone truly has equal opportunity, no matter what color you are. White, Black, Asian, whatever. Like diversity doesn't only mean minorities. Diversity means bringing all together. So the majority and the minority, bringing them all together in one place and creating just equal opportunity for people to succeed. If some people don't want to jump on it, if let's say minorities don't want to jump on the opportunity, then that we can't force it on people. Like if people want to do it, yeah, they can do it, but let's at least create the opportunity where they know, hey, at least I have a chance to jump in. So that's how I push things. I'm always about unity. United we rise, divided we fall. So in order to be the America we were always meant to be, we must all come together.
So do you still hold Nigerian citizenship? We saw that on your Wikipedia page.
I don't think I'm a citizen in Nigeria. I don't know. I don't think I am. So I don't know, but I do remember
we'll have to yell at Wikipedia
Academy,
for that.
Yeah, I do remember at the Naval Academy, I had to go talk with an NCIS agent once and tell them that I only support one country. And that I'm not a foreign agent, and I'm not trying to double or crisscross anyone.
Oh man,
so that was interesting. I had to like sign documents. So like brought me into this office and like, hey, you need to sign here that you only pledge allegiance to one country. I was like, what the heck? I was like, okay. I'm like 18 years old. Like,
yeah.
this is
like,
007. What's going on?
Dude, I was born in Texas. Give me a break.
Yeah, I was born in Texas, dude.
So, is it true though that your parents immigrated to the U.S. in the 80s?
Yeah, so both my parents immigrated from Nigeria to the U.S. So I'm first generation Nigerian American here. I've been to Nigeria once. I probably need to go again sometime soon. It's been a long time, like shoot, 25 years.
Oh wow.
Since I've been there. Yeah, it's been a long time. So I still got, I got to go back. I got to go like meet my relatives and all that stuff. I've only seen some of them, not all of them. So
Yeah. So what did your parents think of racing? Is racing big over in Africa, or when you started driving fast and not looking back, were they just kind of like, oh goodness, here he goes?
Yeah, it was oh goodness, here he goes type thing. Yeah, racing in Nigeria is not really a big thing at all. I think it's trying to come up in Nigeria. I think some people are trying to make some waves with it. It's just still not there because it's not a thing we normally do. We don't like the whole country isn't paved like the U.S. is. So, I think what could do well in Nigeria would be rally racing. I think that would be cool. That would be very interesting. Because we got Baja here and stuff like that. Why couldn't there be a similar type of event? Like they do Dakar, all that stuff out, wherever they do it. But I think racing could be a thing there, and rally racing I think would be the best way to go about it. I don't think the paved stuff. It's going to be a while before that would be a big thing.
Yeah, or those off-road trucks.
Off-road, yeah. Anything dirt off-road could do well there.
So when it comes to building your career, like you said, the goal is the cup, right? But is there like a certain route to do it? Is it like so many ARCA starts, so many truck starts, etc., or is it really all about like a mix between performance and sponsorship or luck? I mean, what is there a certain route that you're supposed to go to get there, and it's always that's the way you do it?
Yeah, there's no dead set route. Maybe there was a long time ago, but not anymore with the way motorsports is. The biggest thing is funding. You got to make sure that the funding's there. At the end of the day, it's just difficult to get on the racetrack if you don't have it. A team owner could try to support you on their own and try to figure it out. But as you've seen, teams shut down. Like if you can have a driver in there that's not bringing any sponsorship or anything, but the team doesn't last very long. They got to figure out a way to find some way to get funding. So that's why you see, and it's funny because you'll see people complain about it all the time, like, oh, back in the day, these teams used to recruit these drivers, and now you got all these paid drivers, all that stuff. Paid driving has been a thing forever. There's basically a few ways a team can work. Either a team has a good marketing component to it, and they are able to bring their own sponsorship and then select their own driver, or the team doesn't know how to market well and can't find sponsorship and has to bring a driver who has sponsorship themselves, or the team can't market well, doesn't have sponsorship, and has to bring a driver who just has money in their pocket, maybe a wealthy family or a big business or whatever. So that's the only ways, because at the end of the day, it just costs money. Like it's like fuel, tires, people, transportation, travel, all that stuff costs money. And someone has to pay for it, and your race earnings from the position you finish in does not cover it all, unless you're like super low budgeting it.
So as you've gone through the ranks here, is there any role models that you've had along the way, either just in the sport or that you've worked directly with?
Yeah, I mean, people, I definitely look up to Dale Earnhardt Jr. Super cool dude, super down to earth. For someone who's had, so much attention, basically one of the most popular drivers ever in NASCAR, all the media attention, all that stuff. He's very still down to earth. He's not like an a-hole or something like that. Whereas there's other drivers who don't even have near the fame and are a-holes.
Yeah.
So, when I see him and how he conducts himself, I really like that. I'm like, hey, I want to be like that. Like he understands, and that is cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I'm always afraid, like if I'm ever like meeting a driver, I'm like, please be cool. Please be cool. So you have many philanthropic endeavors. Can you tell us a little bit about those?
Yeah, always supporting different like veteran organizations and kids organizations, folks who are helping kids, helping vets, all that stuff. I really love doing that. Giving back is huge. When I say give back, usually it's more of like time and energy and helping promote whatever the organization is. I try to do my best to be part of a lot of that stuff. I've helped a lot of different organizations over the last few years, and it's been fun because I know it's helping people. It's one, inspiring people, one, helping folks to get to a better life, and it's just doing good things for the community and folks out there who are trying to achieve. So I love doing that stuff. It's fun, and we do what we can in different ways through, putting them on the race car, me being at events, me speaking at events, me doing there's all the different things that we've done. So action is huge in this world.
Very nice. So in 2019, I believe, I went down to the Daytona night race. So it was in July, and we were going to the Saturday race, but we were watching it on TV. And I don't know if it was like one of your first broadcasts on NBC, but I remember seeing you when we were watching it on TV. And then I think it was like that Friday night. We went out to dinner and we sat like right next to you, and I did a double take. I was like, "That's Jesse Iwuji right there." So love seeing you on NBC. Is that something you anticipate doing for a long time?
Yeah, I definitely plan on doing some more. Hopefully this year. I know NBC is doing their transition to USA, so I don't know how that's all going to work. I don't know. I'm just going to do what I can do this year to get on some more broadcasts. But yeah, it was fun doing that, and eventually, who knows? Maybe I'll be in the booth one day. But I plan on being on screen for stuff in the even after NASCAR. I want to be in movies and shows and all that stuff. I just love the Hollywood stuff. I think it's cool. So yeah, maybe it's getting me ready for it.
Cool. Well, where will you be racing next, and where can we expect to see you the rest of the season?
Yeah, right now the plan is Vegas for the next one, trucks. And then I want to run some more Xfinity races this year. We're going to run some more truck races. It's just all as basically the more sponsorship we find, the more races we run. So it's all about finding the funding, because if I can't find it, then there's no way to pay for tires, people, race cars, travel, all that stuff. You just it costs money. At the end of the day, it just all costs money. You got the dollars and cents, you can find a way in a car.
Cool. Well, we wish the best for you. We appreciate you coming on here and telling us your awesome story. We appreciate your service and everything that you've given to this country, and also what you're doing to continue pushing racing, which we've loved for a long time. Continue pushing that forward, and taking the time just to talk with us. And we'll let you go get something to eat now.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thanks for having me on the show.
All right. Thanks a lot, Jesse.
Yep. Take care.
We have just finished up the February stint at Daytona. It has been a lot of fun. We had the 500, followed it up with the road course. Bart, we had the truck race on Friday night. What did you think of that?
I did not expect to see Ben Rhodes go 2 for 2, fellow Kentucky boy like ourselves. But man, he dominated.
Yeah, I was really excited to see Ben Rhodes do well. You could tell he was just as surprised as you were when he got out of the truck. It was a genuine response, and that's what we've been looking for in these drivers. And he's been around for a little bit, and he's been trying to make his way, but it looks like he's finally gotten his shoe in with some good equipment. And I think that he'll be a force to be reckoned with through the rest of the year. I mean, he won on a super speedway, went and won on a road course. Those aren't two things that are usually simpatico when we talk about people. We're not like, oh, Ricky Stenhouse does a really good job on the super speedways and the road courses. It's not something that we see go hand in hand. So pretty cool to see him. Was there anybody else that stood out to you or didn't stand out to you in the truck race?
Not so much. I mean, I thought it was kind of what you expected, but I thought it was a good race. I know that a lot of these guys are putting in a lot of time, and so people who historically haven't been that great at road courses are showing a little bit more promise, and it makes sense. If you're going to have that many road courses on the schedule, it makes sense to put in the time to get better. Looking at the Xfinity race, that was also a crazy one, seeing Austin Cindric and AJ Allmendinger kind of like take each other out at the end of stage 2. And then
stage one.
Oh yeah, that was stage 1.
Yeah.
And then the Ty Gibbs, who is making his debut start in Xfinity, never raced an Xfinity race before, has never raced a Cup race before, and he wins.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Kudos to Ty Gibbs. I'm anybody who I'm not a huge fan of. I'm not going to take away from their racing ability. You have to be able to drive the car well. And he showed that he did that. He made some really, really good passes throughout the race. He said it himself. He can't do burnouts. If he wants to win again, hopefully he can figure that part out, because that's kind of what we look forward to when somebody we don't like wins, is can they do a nice burnout. But, I respect the fact that he went out there, showed that he can compete. He's got the best equipment out there. Joe Gibbs is his granddaddy. He's got good equipment. I expect him to do well if he has the talent to match it. And I think he proved that to us. So I hope to see him do well throughout the rest of the season as well.
Well, he did something that nobody else has ever done. So the first win in Xfinity Series debut, that's been done before, but these guys have also ran Cup races. So this guy, young kid, I think what is he, 17 or 18? You have to 17, be 18.
Yeah, 18, I think.
Yeah. he goes out on his first debut and wins the race. I think that's quite impressive, regardless of equipment. I mean, you're racing some pretty decent people out there, and it's not like he just got lucky. I mean, minus the fact that two of the biggest contenders.
Yeah, number one and number two car, respectively, flip them either way, decided to play a little bit of bump and grind at the beginning when they shouldn't have.
And not to take away from that win, I think it's pretty impressive, and I do think that shows that he will be a promising driver, in the Cup one day for certain. So let's get into the Cup race. I want to start out with the broadcast itself because they're putting more races on Fox versus FS1, so the main channel where a lot more people can tune in or paying attention when it's on because it's in the main channels or free for folks. Let's talk about the skit that they did. I mean, I was rolling. If you guys didn't see it, it was Jeff Gordon, Clint Boyer, and they're both driving like a Chevy Impala and a Ford Fusion, like from maybe the late 90s or early 2000s.
Yeah, that's definitely like a 2003 and a 2004 or something like that.
And they're out there just banging those cars together. And the whole skit was like, are they going to get to the booth in time for the race to start? And so it's like this whole thing that went over like several commercial breaks. And I thought that was well done. I enjoyed every minute of that. If they're going to do stuff like that, I'm all for it. I love the pre-race show, the theatrics around it, and just the camaraderie of those three guys in the booth, Mike Joy, Clint Boyer, Jeff Gordon. I think it's a really good dynamic, and it brings a lot to the race.
I think there is some longevity behind that threesome. I mean, they have brought Fox. Fox might be the most improved from the NASCAR 2020 season because we've talked about it. Jeff stumbles over himself. Mike Joy is just the picture perfect announcer for motorsports. And then you throw in Clint Boyer. And, I don't know if it would have been as safe to throw DW out there in one of those old cars with nothing but a seatbelt on, having them slamming doors like that. But yeah, that was a lot of fun. And it really kicked off the race in this way that I think new fans see that and they're like, that's the cars that we drive, and they're banging doors in those. So I think that's a cool way to get new fans fired up about what they were about to see. And that bumping and banging that they were doing definitely translated into the race.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So next thing I want to talk about is the start of the race. And I only want to briefly mention this, but I noticed that Starcom and our buddy Quinn Hoff, they did an old start and park, 100%. I feel it was like an engine issue, and they just like 100 like lap 3. Yeah, there was
engine issue.
There was no diagnostic. There's no diagnostics done. They were just like out of the race, which I hate that that's happening still in the sport. I don't believe that there was really an issue. Going into that first turn, Michael McDowell, starting on the first row, won the Daytona 500, first ever career Cup win, and he just flies out into the corner too hot.
Yeah.
And he's instantly back in like 30th place. I hated to see that. Ultimately, he finished 8th. So pretty good showing. I mean, not a great start, but pretty good showing from him.
Yeah, it was it wasn't bad. Everybody was trying to hype up the story of will Michael McDowell go back to back. I didn't think that was going to be the case. I didn't think it would do terrible, but he definitely, there were few Fords. Brad Keselowski, I think, was one of them who were flying into those turns with no brakes.
Brad Keselowski looked like he was playing a video game out there. Like he was, he was going in and just like slamming on the brakes, skidding his tires through every corner. And somehow, I mean, when you saw him, it looked awful. Like his racing looked awful, but somehow he finished 5th.
Yeah, and I think part of that is due to some of the issues that took place at the end. I mean, we had Kurt Busch bump the curb and took off into the infield like a rocket. So that kind of put him out of things. Chase decided to pit when they pulled out that questionable rain caution in the middle of the race, or right at the end of the race. and it put him back in the field, which caused him to get caught in one of those bottleneck turns. I think it was turn 6 that he was going into, and Denny Hamlin got into the back of him, something that we are all too familiar seeing, and turned him around. So, Martin Truex had issues. All these guys that were due to be at the top of the leaderboard had been dominating the race all day. They were kind of put well back in the pack, and it gave folks like Brad Keselowski time to bump around and make his way to the top. Again, not taking anything away from him, but it looked very Forza or NASCAR 99-ish what he was pulling off when he was driving around the track.
So I do want to talk about the weather caution, because that is something that made a lot of people upset, because they feel as though that NASCAR is trying to manipulate the results of the race by throwing a caution, getting everybody grouped up back together, and then chaos ensues, which it did. So would Chase Elliott have won if that caution hadn't come out? Probably so. But would there have been another caution? Probably so. So it's, you can't know what would happen. And I feel like they made the best call given the information that they have. I feel as though that they are watching the broadcast, and they kind of get influenced a little bit about how the guys play things up a little bit. So like, I mean, it was a big deal. There's rain over on one side of the track. It's wet. They're talking about rain tires. Are they going pit crews getting ready? So I feel as though that could have influenced the call. But as soon as they called the caution, the rain stopped, the track dried up, everyone came to pit, but they didn't put on rain tires because the track was already dry by the time this happened. So I don't think it was a great call in general. I don't necessarily question that they were trying to manipulate the race per se. But how do you feel about it?
I don't know. So I'm not one of the conspiracy theorists who think NASCAR is out there to make a certain person win every year by changing the playoff structure. Like when they changed it after Jimmy Johnson won his 7th championship, and they wanted to switch up the way things were done. I wasn't like, oh, they're doing it to make sure that Jimmy Johnson doesn't win. I think every now and again you need change, but my problem with it was a nominal amount of rain. It wasn't like one side of the rain was so soaking wet that none of these cars could make it through. They were taking the turns at 75 to 85 miles an hour rather than 85 to 95 miles an hour. It wasn't drenched in rain, or else it wouldn't have. They didn't even send the air dryers out for this. So I'm like, I don't get why they made the call. It seemed to me like they were being overly cautious with safety, and that's one thing that we have seen NASCAR do quite a bit, is make safety calls when it seems like it's a little bit over the top. And that's why I think they made it. I don't think there was some conspiracy to let somebody other than Chase Elliott lead, who is the most popular driver in the sport. Why wouldn't you want him to lead and win?
Yeah. Well, it's just unfortunate because he had a great car, way better than any other car, and he was definitely had the W if he had, could stay up top. Unfortunately, when you go back green and you get grouped up in that first turn, I mean, it's just chaos, and that's what happened. He got hit by Corey LaJoie one time, and then he was out in the grass, and then he ended up kind of paying back Corey LaJoie.
Hell of a
later.
save in the grass, though. Yeah,
it was. Yeah, he's a Willman for sure. Other drivers to note, same thing happened to Kyle Busch. It happened like early on in the race, maybe lap 1, and he fought his way back, and then he ended up finished 35th. I don't know if it happened again, maybe.
Yeah, he ripped the splitter off of his car very, very early on the right side, which they say they were saying as you get up on that banking just heavily impacts the car. And then, my fear about the road courses is that they're going to become as big of an unknown, and this is the fantasy in me talking, as big of an unknown as the super speedways. We go into super speedways going, we don't know who the hell to pick. So these are the guys that we're going to pick. Then you get to the road courses now, and it's like, you have no clue what's going to happen, because if a guy like Chase Elliott, I mean, it's not like he pitted and went back to 19th. We're talking he pitted and came off at 5th or 6th, I think, and was still getting caught up in these bottlenecks and log jams in turn 1 and then out at turn 6. There was so many spots that things can go wrong at a road course. I'm also questioning this package on the road courses. I know they tried to make some alterations. We're moving to the next gen car next year, which all of the drivers, Truex, Kurt Busch, they tested it out and said it's going to be great. So I think we'll see better road course racing, but the less downforce, I think, played a huge role in this race, more so than was being talked about on the broadcast.
That's a great point from the fantasy perspective, because we've only seen this race one time, and with no practice, no qualifying, you really have no idea who to bet on. I mean, my money was on Blaney. I thought Blaney had this one in the bag based off of how I saw him perform in the Clash. I thought he would just go out there and dominate, and it wasn't the case at all. I don't know really what was wrong. It's like a head scratcher for sure, because it didn't seem like he got into any wrecks, but he was just like floundering back in 20th for like the entire race. And then some of the other drivers that I had picked that didn't do so well. I had an inkling that Kyle Larson may do well, but he decided to go full send, and it didn't pan out. And then we got first time ever winner, Christopher Bell. It's his second year in Cup full time. He had a really successful Xfinity Series run with 2 championships. So to see him get a first win and a first time winner last week, it really is very hard to guess what's going to happen, which I guess is good and bad. So if you're putting money on it, it's bad, but good for excitement.
Yeah, it's definitely good for the racing, and kudos to Christopher Bell. I think William Byron might be happy because Christopher Bell is now going to take the baby face of NASCAR from William Byron. But Christopher Bell is just super talented. He was in the hunt. He had run down Chase a couple of times. His car clearly wasn't as good, but he was showing that he could keep the number one in his sights when he had inferior equipment, in quotations. But I mean, kudos to him. He put himself in the right position, and he was there at the right time and was able to take away the win. And I was excited to see him get his first win. We always enjoy seeing that happen for drivers.
Yeah, and speaking of burnouts, they didn't let him do it. They said they had to save the engine, so he couldn't do a burnout on his first win. So that's unfortunate, but I mean, yeah, kudos to him for that. I'm sure he is one of the best moments that he'll ever remember in his career. All right, we have wrapped up 2 weeks at Daytona. It is time to move south to Miami, and what we call Homestead-Miami. It's a 1.5 mile track. It's kind of lackluster. I'm going to say that. But we have been there, and this is my take on it. We have been there for every last race of the season since 1999. That finally moved last year. They had that race in June and instead of the end of the year, which I think probably had to do with something around COVID.
Yeah, that's due to the whole schedule change, and they did move the championship race to Phoenix last year. I don't know if that was a part of the original schedule or it was due to COVID, but, I'm glad to see this track still on the schedule, having had it be the championship racetrack for quite a few years when they moved to the new playoff system and the final race for a few years. Again, I think it's going to be the typical 1.5 mile racing, but it does bring a sense of uncertainty like we've seen with the first 2 races of this season, because it was that last race of the season. And for the past 4 or 5 years, it was the championship race. We've seen those top 4 cars that go into the championship 4. They're typically going to be the top 4 or within the top 10 battling it out. So what we're going to get now, and we kind of saw it last year, is we saw something way different than we had seen in years past from those championship guys not being the ones at the top. We're going to get maximum effort from almost all of the cars except for Starcom.
Yeah, and I have hope in this. I don't remember last year's race for some reason. I have no recollection of it. Looking back on it, don't remember it. But that doesn't mean anything. I'm hopeful because of that point that you made, which is exactly what I was going to say, is that when you look at a last race, it's generally conservative because everyone's just trying to finish out the season, minus those 4 cars who are running in the final 4 of the championship. We saw it this past year at Phoenix. It wasn't necessarily that exciting of a race, because there was only 4 cars essentially really racing out there. So I have hope that this will be a good race, and I am still going to watch it and still be excited about it. And fingers crossed, it's an exciting race.
I do think it's going to be one of those races that it comes down more to the pit stop. We're not going to see as much of the banging of doors and all of the rubbing is racing that we've seen from Daytona and the big wrecks that we saw there, or the road course where we saw people going way off course. It's going to be much more of a technical race, being that 1.5 mile track. And while it may seem monotonous to some people, if you get into the pit stops and the strategy behind the racing, I think it's going to be a really fun race.
There is no truck race this week. So no race on Friday. On Saturday, the Xfinity race is at 4:30 p.m. Eastern on FS1. And then the Cup race is on Sunday, February 28th at 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Fox. So we get to see another race on Fox. Let's talk about fantasy. All right. My top 5 for this race. And I don't, backing up a little bit, I don't even know that I'm qualified to do this anymore. I have lost every dime I have gambled on, and I am not doing so hot in fantasy right now. But I'm hoping that we go to a familiar track where before we had so many 1.5 miles on the schedule, so we know who does well there. So I'm hoping, fingers crossed, that this will be the week where my luck turns around. So my top 5, I'm going to go with Kevin Harvick. The reason why I'm going with Kevin Harvick is because in the last 4 races, he has had 3 top 5s. So that's very good. He's also number 1 on intermediates. Of any NASCAR driver, he has the best average finish. So it's a no-brainer. You're going to want to put in Kevin Harvick. Kyle Busch also is somebody that you're going to want to put on your lineup. Also 3 top 5s of the last 4 races and second on intermediates. So, he's essentially tied with Kevin Harvick. Martin Truex Jr., there's going to be a theme here, 3 top 5s and third on intermediates. So you're going to want to hit him as well. Then I'm going to put Denny Hamlin. So he has had 4 top 10s. He hasn't been in the top 5. He won, I believe, last year in June. But he's got momentum. He is on fire, and nobody can stop him. So I guarantee that he's going to be in the top 5 of this race. That's the issue with Harvick, is that he's kind of been on like a cooling era since the playoffs happened last fall. So hopefully he can get his stuff back together and we can see him up front. My final driver in my top 5 is going to be Joey Logano. Penske has been really doing well, especially him and Keselowski the past 2 races. So I anticipate that he's going to be up in the top 5 as well. He generally comes out of the gate very quickly and tries to score a win. So I do think that we're going to see him. He's had 3 top 10s here in the past 4 races. And so that's my top 5. When I look at the garage bait,
no Chevys in your top 5.
Yeah, there's no Chevys.
Chevy has had a rough go at it on these 1.5 miles over the past few years, it seems like.
Yeah, well, the good thing is we have Kyle Larson driving a Chevy, and I think that he's up there right next to the wall, driving a crazy line, but he's really good at intermediate. So I do think you'll see him up there. I don't have him on my garage bait or my top 5, but that is somebody to consider. I just don't know. It's hard to bet on somebody who's been out of the sport for a year.
Yeah.
So my garage bait, I'm going to go with Brad Keselowski. He's number 4 on intermediates. He's been performing pretty well the last 2 races. So I anticipate that he's going to want to make up for lost time, not winning the 500, not winning on a road course, which are 2 things that he's never done. And so go out and win at a 1.5 miles, which he is good at. I'm going to say Chase Elliott. So here you go. Here's a Chevy. He's had 3 top 10s here. He's trending well. He has that confidence of being a championship winner. And so I think that we're going to see him do well. And then finally, shocker, I'm going to say Austin Dillon.
Whoa.
Austin Dillon is someone you should consider. And the reason why is that in the last 4 races at Homestead-Miami, he has been in the top 10 all 4 of those races.
So you're definitely looking at some stage points possibly, as well as, a good finishing point total there.
Yeah. So you look at the bonus, top Chevy, I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Kyle Larson. So I've got Chase Elliott as a consideration for my garage, but I do think that Kyle Larson has the potential to do well. So I'm going to go ahead and put him on the bonus points there. Top Ford will be Kevin Harvick. Top Toyota will be Kyle Busch. And the winner will be Joey Logano. So I'm going to go with winning manufacturer Ford and Team Penske as a winner. All right, everybody, it's time for another true or false. We got to talk to Jesse Iwuji about NASCAR and their push for diversity. It's also Black History Month, so we wanted to take some time to highlight diversity within NASCAR with some cool facts you may not have already known. So you ready, Chris?
Yeah, I'm ready. I think I'm going to learn a lot from this one.
I definitely did creating these questions. So let's kick this off. Number one, Wendell Scott was the first African-American Cup Series driver to ever win a race in the year 1964. True or false?
True.
It is true. Did you know that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he raced local circuits in Virginia and entered the Grand National Series in 1961. So he was he was in the sport after 12 years of NASCAR being created. So that was early on.
Yeah. That's one of those things that I learned last year, as you know, everything was going on with Bubba Wallace and they were starting to shine a light on a lot of the diversity. Cool fact.
Yeah, really cool fact. Number two, in 2018, Bubba Wallace became the first African-American driver to race in the Daytona 500 since Wendell Scott in 1969.
True.
That is also true.
Yes.
Did you know that as well?
That's more Bubba Wallace knowledge. I like the guy, so I've been trying to learn up on him.
I did not know that. That's crazy that it took that long for another African-American driver to be in the Daytona 500. But number three, only 8 African-American drivers have been known to start at least one NASCAR Cup Series race. True or false? That is true. There are only 8. Wendell Scott, Elias Bowie, Charlie Scott, George Wiltshire, Randy Bethea, Willie T. Ribbs, Bill Lester, and Bubba Wallace.
Willie T. Ribbs, one of the top 10 names in NASCAR.
Oh, yeah. And his personality equally is great. Number 4, famous owner-promoter Bruton Smith was the man who pushed Willie T. Ribbs into NASCAR. True or false?
Bruton Smith. I could see him doing. Yeah, true.
It is false.
Oh, who did it?
It was famous promoter Humpy Wheeler.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I don't know a whole lot about this story, but this is how it goes. This was in 1978. He wanted him to race at Charlotte, and it was derailed for several reasons. One, NASCAR said he wasn't qualified enough, so I believe he went through the training. But then there was there's rumors that there was a high-speed chase because Willie was going the wrong way down the street, and he was pulled over and arrested. Which the part of the story that confuses me is this were rumors. And there's no evidence on if it happened or not. But anyway, he did start his first race in 1986 at North Wilkesboro was his first race. And then he did run full-time in the Truck Series in 2001. If you have not seen the documentary Uppity on Netflix, I implore you to go watch it. It's very, very good. Number 5, Bubba Wallace has had 6 wins in the Camping World Truck Series. True or false?
False.
It's true.
Oh, it is? I thought he had I thought he had 7 for some reason.
No wins in Xfinity Cup, but yeah, 6 wins in the Truck Series. Some came from Kyle Busch, and then 1 came from MDN Motorsports. He also has wins in the K&N Series with Rev Racing and Joe Gibbs.
Yeah, I think he'll get another win this year.
I think so too.
The road course racing just may not be his thing last week, but I think he's my dark horse pick for this upcoming race at the 1.5 Mile Speedway. I think they're going to set him up nice.
Interesting. All right, number 6. NASCAR started the Drive for Diversity program in 1995 to attract minorities and females to join NASCAR as drivers and other roles within the sport. True or false?
I feel like you're going to get me with the date of this one. False.
You
false. Smiled.
Dang it. Yeah, it was in 2004 when they started that, but it had been done previously. The manufacturer Dodge created a similar program in 1999.
Oh, cool.
And then Joe Gibbs, Reggie White, and Magic Johnson started one in 2003. So
Talk
the year
about
before.
a damn powerhouse.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Number 7. Wendell Scott was once arrested and sentenced to 3 years probation for running moonshine whiskey. True or false?
Golly, who wasn't back in the day? True.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody, anybody that was in NASCAR pre 1960, they were running some shine.
Oh, for sure. I mean, we did the NASCAR storied on it, and some of the biggest names. I mean, Junior Johnson was out of the sport for a year because he was spending time in jail for running moonshine, and he is looked at as like one of the pinnacle owners and up there on the all-time wins list as an owner. I mean, moonshine and NASCAR are synonymous, whether you like it or not,
For
and
sure.
it tastes good.
Also true. All right, number 8, Willie T. Ribbs once drove for Chip Ganassi in the Trans Am Series. True or false?
Trans Am Series. I'm going to say that's true.
False. It was Jack Roush.
Oh.
And I learned that nugget on Uppity.
Oh, okay. So I got who he drove for wrong. Okay.
All right, number 9, Michael Jordan is the first black NASCAR principal team owner. True or false?
True.
So owns the. It is false.
Who was first?
Wendell Scott in 1961.
Oh, really?
He
I
owned
didn't
his
know
own
that.
team. Yeah. So Michael Jordan's the first principal, like he owns the majority of the team in over 50 years. And I think it was Wendell Scott before that. I don't know. But yeah. Wendell Scott,
awesome.
he owned his own team and race. All right, going into the final question, you got 5 right. So chance at 60% here. Number 10, Brad Daugherty, the professional basketball player and co-owner of JTG Daugherty, played for the Cleveland Cavaliers. True or false?
That is true.
That is true. Yep. He certainly did.
Yep. I know a little bit about basketball.
I figured you would.
Yeah. I mean, those are cool facts. And, it's cool, super cool now to see Michael Jordan obviously being a part of the sport. I've always wondered if like him and Brad Daugherty had talked about that, about getting into the sport and getting Michael in there. Obviously that's the biggest name in basketball you could have in there, but super cool this past week to see Alvin Kamara coming in as well, running back for the New Orleans Saints. And then obviously just the push that NASCAR has made. We're seeing a lot more female drivers. I mean, Pitbull's a part of this now with Daniel Suarez. We're seeing a lot more diversity in the sport. So just cool stuff happening all across NASCAR, and glad we could highlight it. Well, we hate to leave you guys this week, but that means that we will be back again next week after the race at Miami. We have to thank Jesse Iwuji for being with us. Make sure you guys go give him a follow, Jesse_Iwuji on both Instagram and Twitter. You get to see his awesome cars, his wrestling matches with his brothers, and he is beating people up who are trying to get into his Camping World Outdoors truck. So big thanks to him for coming on. We had a blast. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at goingintight_pod. You can find all of our episodes on Spotify, Apple, wherever you listen to your podcasts. And you can see all of our old episodes and the fantasy forecast on goingintightpodcast.com. We look forward to talking to you all next week.
Peace.